Charles Oliveira and Gamrot are fighting this weekend. I don't know about you, but I'm worried for Charles. Is his chin going to be okay? We don't know. Ilia Topuria packs a pretty serious punch. Or even his body after 2 close weight cuts back to back, when you know the weight cut for Charles is pretty hard. He's had issues on the scale before. There's certainly a lot of red flags with Charles. And there's also some red flags with Gamrot for this matchup. So I'm going to go through the matchup, dive into the X's and O's, and tell you exactly who's going to win, how they'll win, and why they'll win. Because this is a very intriguing fight, and I see a lot of people getting it wrong. So obviously this fight was supposed to be with Rafael Fiziev, but he pulled out. This dude's always getting injured. So they got the next best guy, Gamrot. Originally they were scrambling for an opponent, couldn't find one. I thought Charles was ducking Gamrot, but clearly he wasn't. And I applaud him. You know, Charles very rarely pulls out. And while he does miss weight sometimes, he usually shows up to scrap regardless. And he's always there ready for a war. And then Gamrot, big respect to him, stepping in on short notice, which is another red flag of mine. He's had to cut a lot of weight in a shorter window than someone like Charles, so that could potentially drain him more. And he just hasn't been training. And will his conditioning be ready for 5 rounds? I'm sure, obviously, he's been training, but he hasn't been in camp preparing for a 5-rounder. Those are 2 different things. So how much will that affect him? We don't know. But what I will say is it's not going to help. It's either going to have no effect or hurt him, but it's certainly not going to help him having no training camp. Charles Oliveira himself, he was training for a striker in Rafael Fiziev, and now he's going to a grappler, which honestly, I don't think will hurt him. Charles Oliveira, we know, is a great grappler. I don't think he's going to struggle too hard with someone like Gamrot, who we have seen been destroyed by Benny D in recent times. Dan Hooker beat him. Jalen Turner almost beat him, arguably beat him. I think Turner won that. And he's coming off a win over Ludovic Klein. Dude's not even ranked. Let's look at how I think this fight will go. I believe Charles is the much better striker. Not only does he pack more of a punch, but he takes a better shot. Everyone knows Charles is chinny, but have you seen Gamrot fight? This dude gets dropped almost every fight, no matter who he's fighting. So let's not act like Gamrot's some Marvin Vettori or Max Holloway of sorts. His chin is crackable, very crackable, pause. And if he's getting dropped by Dan Hooker, Beneil Dariush, Jalen Turner, Charles Oliveira will be able to drop him. He's faster than Dariush. He has about the same power as Dariush, I'd argue. Hooker and Jalen Turner, they're exceptions. They're long, and they're very, very good in the striking. So even if you want to say they're better than Charles, you can't tell me Beneil's a better striker than Charles. We've seen Charles knock out Beneil. So that narrative has got to go. Charles is a far better striker than Beneil, and Beneil was destroying Gamrot on the feet. If we look at the grappling, Gamrot could not do anything to Beneil Dariush. And I know MMA math doesn't always work, but it's good to get a general gauge, I believe. So if you're not able to do anything to Dariush on the ground, why do you think you can do something to Charles Oliveira, who's one of the most accomplished BJJ artists in history? Not to mention, he was neck and neck with Arman on the ground. He did pretty well against Islam as far as the grappling went. Yes, he got submitted, but that was after getting dropped. And we know Islam's a phenomenal striker. And the wrestling clinic he put on Michael Chandler. Yeah, it wasn't a prime Chandler, but the way he was ragdolling this guy all fight was insane. Picking him up, tossing him around the cage. And that is high-level grappling. And I think Charles Oliveira's wrestling, pure wrestling, is better now than it's ever been. Not his BJJ, maybe not his striking, but his pure wrestling, I think, is at its peak level. And when you're going against someone like Gamrot, who's also a pure wrestler, that gives you a very, very big leg up. So Gamrot's path to victory would be taking Charles down and controlling him. Beating Charles on the ground. And not many people can do that. Again, Islam Makhachev and Arman, kind of. I think Charles won the fight. It wasn't a robbery. It could have gone either way. But what I'm saying is the most elite guys in the division struggled with Charles Oliveira. And I know Gamrot has a win over Saryukian. Everyone knows that was a robbery. Saryukian won. It was a robbery. Saryukian won 3-2. But I will say Gamrot pushes a crazy pace, which could play a large factor in this fight. But Charles himself has pretty good cardio too. With that being said, Charles himself has pretty good cardio. I'd argue better than Arman's. 100% better than Arman's. You know what everyone was saying after the fight. If that fight was 5 rounds, Charles would have destroyed Arman. And I believe it. He was just gaining momentum. Charles builds as the fight goes on. But for most Charles Oliveira fights, they don't go past the 3rd round. He is a finisher. He is one of the most dangerous fighters in UFC history. And Mateusz Gamrot is one of the chinniest fighters in UFC history. But his grappling is solid. I'll give him that. So how I think it's going to go. I think Charles Oliveira is going to TKO him. I think he's going to knock him down on the feet. They're going to get into an exchange, maybe in the second or third round, because the first round, Gamrot's going to be very wrestling heavy. I think he's going to shoot within the first 20 seconds. But at some point in the early rounds, Charles will catch Gamrot. And when he catches Gamrot, Gamrot's done for. Because Charles, not only can he catch people very well and set them down, but if he catches you and sets you down, he will finish you. Charles does not let people off the hook. If Charles hurts you, you're as good as dead. He will finish you. Maybe he won't sub Gamrot per se. Like I said, Gamrot's a good grappler, but Gamrot's chin is so awful. I cannot believe people are genuinely picking him to beat Olives, given the fact they're so evenly matched on the ground and there's a clear advantage for one fighter on the feet. And yeah, Charles's chin might not be the best, but Gamrot has no power. Who has Gamrot ever knocked out? Has he even knocked anyone down? Dan Hooker, maybe in a couple scrappy exchanges, and even then he was still able to get up scotch-free. So, dude, he struggled to take down Daniel Hooker, and I think he was 2-1 with Ludovic Klein. If you're struggling and getting into a close decision with Dan Hooker, with Jalen Turner, bro, Charles Oliveira will destroy you. And that's how I look at it. Again, MMA math doesn't always work. I acknowledge that. But he is not going to beat Charles on the ground. It is going to be 50-50. I'm telling you now. Charles on the ground, he doesn't get ragdolled. No one has ever ragdolled Charles in recent history. So Gamrot's not going to be the first. And right there goes away his main path to victory. Charles can win via sub, via knockout, anywhere he wants. Gamrot cannot. So yes, Charles is going to be slower. Yes, Charles is going to be less durable. Yes, Charles might be less confident. But skill for skill, their styles matched up. Charles Oliveira stylistically is a nightmare for Gamrot. The only way Gamrot wins this is if he's not even going to catch Charles in a sub. He can't even catch Charles. He has to go to a decision. And if you're going to go 25 minutes with Oliveira, you will get hurt at some point. And again, if Charles hurts you, you're as good as dead. So if you're giving me a full 25 minutes with someone who doesn't finish fights, give me Charles Oliveira 10 times out of 10. He will win this fight. I'm confident he will win this fight. Yes, it's a quick turnaround, but this opponent is much less dangerous than his original opponent, Rafael Fiziev. So Charles Oliveira is a lock for this fight. I don't care what the odds say, what the recent performances look like. Look at Max and Volk after getting knocked out by Topuria. Volk wins back the featherweight belt. Max destroys Dustin Poirier. Say what you will, but Charles is not done for. He's not completely washed, and he will beat Gamrot. You can come back to this video if he doesn't and clown me, but I'm very confident that's what's going to happen.